I was a victim. My mother was abused. And as a child, we're also victims. And watching my mother get beat up day after day after day.
Halle Berry was physically abused by a boyfriend to the point of losing 80% of hearing in her left ear.
She wasn't as happy as she said. Their family was suddenly torn apart by a brutal breakup that led to a vicious custody battle.
In America, that is how I would be perceived, and I would be discriminated against as a black woman, and so she wanted to prepare me. And I thought I gave the best I had to give, and if that wasn't good enough, then I didn't know what the future would hold. And I really just felt like the easy way out would be to just go away.
And so you were going to kill yourself?
I thought so.
What were your dreams when you were a little girl? What did you want for yourself?
I wanted to make a lot of money just to really better the quality of life for my family.
I wanted to be a mother so badly. I desperately wanted that to manifest in my life.
Like your name is in over 100 songs.
Really?
Yes.
100 songs?
100. I mean, Jay-Z.
And the Emmy goes to Halle Berry. Introducing Dorothy Dandridge.
Ladies and gentlemen, Halle Berry.
She was Hollywood's golden girl, flawless, fearless, and unforgettable. But what if everything you admired about Halle Berry was built on the ruins of everything she survived? Behind the Oscars, behind the beauty, behind the fame, was a little girl who grew up surrounded by violence, isolation, and betrayal. A woman who was nearly destroyed by love. A star who once sat alone in her car, ready to end it all. The world saw a legend, but she was hiding a lifetime of secrets, secrets that nearly broke her.
I legit went prom queen, but the administration of the school, they thought, no, this little black girl.
And they had a meeting and they said, oh, actually it was a tie and a white girl has tied with you.
What the school decided the appropriate thing to do is that we should toss a coin.
And they had a coin flip that Halle won, but she felt suspicious of that.
Were you aware at the time that this was racist?
Oh, yeah.
This isn't the story of how Halle Berry became famous. It's the story of what almost killed her and how she chose to live anyway. Halle Berry's life is a reminder that public admiration often masks private suffering. While the world saw her rise to the top, what they didn't see was the emotional cost of that journey. Her path to success was never easy or glamorous behind the scenes. It was filled with instability, abuse, and heartbreak. What makes her story significant is not only how deeply she suffered, but how she used that pain as a force of transformation. For every red carpet moment, there were years of silence and survival. Her darkest moments were never publicized, but it's in those very moments that her true strength was forged. Halle Maria Berry was born on August 14, 1966, in Cleveland, Ohio. Her mother, Judith, was a white psychiatric nurse, and her father, Jerome, an African-American hospital attendant. Growing up biracial in a deeply divided America came with challenges, but the real trauma came from within her own home. Halle was only 5 when she witnessed her father physically abuse her mother, often violently and without warning. The violence wasn't rare, it was routine.
And watching my mother get beat up day after day after day. Watching my mother get kicked downstairs. And watching my mother get stitches in the back of her head because she'd been hit with a wine bottle when she wasn't looking.
Eventually, her mother gathered the courage to leave the relationship, raising Halle and her sister as a single parent. But by then, the psychological impact had already taken root. Even after escaping the abuse, Halle faced another kind of hostility in the outside world. Raised in a predominantly white suburb, she was one of the only black children in her school. She was bullied, insulted, and made to feel like she didn't belong, ostracized for her skin color and hair texture. I had to fight every day, she later said, not just physically, but emotionally and socially. Her childhood became a constant lesson in endurance. And although she grew stronger, it came at the cost of innocence. In a world determined to reject her, she learned to survive by molding herself into someone no one could ignore. But childhood wasn't the end of her pain. In fact, as her fame grew, the private battles became even harder to bear. What the world didn't see was how love, something she deeply craved, became one of her greatest sources of pain. While Halle Berry's rise to fame seemed picture perfect, her personal life was a completely different story. Behind the magazine covers and movie premieres were years of emotional turmoil. As she entered adulthood and began building her career, she also entered into relationships that would leave lasting emotional and physical scars. The abuse she escaped as a child found its way back to her, this time through the people she trusted most. One relationship became so violent that it left her partially deaf in one ear.
In 1991, Halle Berry was physically abused by a boyfriend to the point of losing 80% of hearing in her left ear. Berry has not disclosed the identity of her abuser, but she has stated that he is an established name in Hollywood.
Though she never publicly named the man responsible, the damage was irreversible. She later revealed that the experience was not just physically painful, it shattered her self-worth. Another partner, whom she married, struggled with sex addiction and betrayed her repeatedly. In yet another relationship, infidelity became the defining theme. To the outside world, she was a Hollywood success story. But behind the closed doors of her private life, she was dealing with manipulation, betrayal, and loneliness that contradicted the glamorous image the world saw. Despite the pain, Halle kept moving forward, sometimes out of strength, sometimes simply because she didn't know what else to do. The emotional exhaustion became part of her daily life, a quiet weight she carried with grace. Violence is not love, it's power and fear, she once said, words spoken not as theory, but as lived truth. Each heartbreak chipped away at her, but also taught her what she would no longer tolerate. Still, the weight of all those betrayals added up, and eventually it became too much to carry alone.
My sense of self and my self-worth was totally connected to him. So when he left, I felt like nothing.
Their very public split turned ugly after Halle filed a restraining order against David.
The day that I got divorced, I so blamed it on my father, and I called him up and I just said, I'm getting a divorce and it's all your fault. And he said nothing, he did nothing, he offered me nothing. And I felt so empty at the end of it. But I knew I had spoken to him for the very last time in my life.
That emotional weight brought her to a breaking point. One night, alone and hopeless, Halle Berry made a decision that could have ended everything. At her lowest, Halle Berry sat alone in her car, parked in her garage. She closed the garage door, turned on the engine, and waited. In that moment, she believed she had nothing left. Not love, not purpose, not strength. The emotional agony she had been hiding for so long had finally reached a tipping point. She didn't want to be famous. She didn't want to fight. She just wanted the pain to stop. She described that moment not as weakness, but as complete emotional depletion. I felt worthless, she admitted in a later interview. The woman who the world saw as confident and invincible had been crumbling in silence for years. But just when she thought she was ready to disappear, she saw one image that stopped her. Her mother's face. The same mother who had suffered in silence, raised her alone, and survived. That flash of love became a lifeline. It reminded her that her life wasn't just hers to take. It belonged to those who still needed her. Choosing to live wasn't a triumphant epiphany, it was a quiet, trembling decision. It meant rebuilding from the inside out. She sought therapy, she set boundaries, she stopped trying to please everyone else and started focusing on herself.
When I talk to these women at the Genesee Center, they listen to me differently because I've lived it, I've been through it, and so there's a deeper connection that we have, and I find that it's rewarding for me to help these other women transform their lives, and by doing that I kind of, in a way, heal the hurts of my own past. I sort of take what happened to me and I use it for good.
That single moment of choosing life didn't fix everything overnight, but it started a new chapter, one rooted in healing rather than performance. It was the most important role she ever took on, becoming whole. From that quiet survival came something no one expected. Not just healing, but greatness. What followed was a professional and personal transformation the world couldn't ignore. Halle Berry didn't just recover, she rose with purpose. In 2002, she made history by becoming the first, and still the only, Black woman to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. But this wasn't just a personal victory, it was a cultural milestone. Her success didn't represent an easy path or Hollywood generosity. It was a hard-earned moment that proved she had defied every barrier put in her way, from racism and domestic violence to public scrutiny and private trauma. Her Oscar win wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. After breaking down so many walls, she refused to stop evolving. She became a director, took on more challenging roles, and most importantly, became a mother. She raised her children on her own terms, not as a celebrity, but as a woman who had fought for every ounce of peace she now claimed. She began speaking publicly about the importance of healing from domestic violence and being emotionally honest, helping others navigate the same pain she once faced alone. Today, Halle Berry's life isn't defined by perfection, it's defined by depth. She has learned to embrace her scars, not as shameful secrets, but as evidence of survival. My scars are proof that I survived when I didn't think I would, she said. Her life is no longer about hiding pain, it's about showing others how to move through it. She isn't a symbol of flawlessness. She's a symbol of what's possible after everything falls apart. And that's more powerful than any award. Halle Berry's story reminds us that what we see in the spotlight is never the whole truth. We admire the beauty, the success, the fame, but often ignore the strength it takes to exist behind it all. Her journey isn't just about what she achieved, but what she overcame. In a world that often rewards performance over honesty, Halle chose to speak her truth. She is not just a Hollywood legend, she is a survivor, a warrior, and proof that the darkest chapters can become the most meaningful ones if we choose to keep turning the page.